Welcome to the Conquer Food podcast with Craig and Paula Williams, where we share tips, tricks and strategies from the coalface of the weight loss industry in the UK. We're going to help you to think, eat and move better. Ultimately, we're going to help you finally gain control and conquer food. Hey guys, and welcome to this next episode of the Conquer Food podcast. I've got a really good guest for you today. He's just absolutely brimming with knowledge, not just on sort of health, fitness, strength and conditioning, but people as well. He understands people, he knows people. He's done some incredible stuff. He's called Ric Moylan. I'll get him to introduce himself a little bit in a minute, as well as a host, just unbelievable amount of like professional boxers, high-level bodybuilders, the England tug-of-war team, current ATP tennis player Liam Brody, who's doing really well at the minute. He's coached just so many different people at a really high level. So we're going to get to chat to him today and pick out some of the knowledge. I've got some questions that you guys have posted that I'm going to put to him. There's a couple of that. And we'll just have a little bit of a general chit-chat. So thanks for coming along, Rick.
Hi, Craig. Thanks for having me. Good to talk to you again, mate.
Yeah. Good. It's been a while, hasn't it, since we had a bit of a natter.
Yeah, the time moves on quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so I want to get right into it first of all. Can you just give us a couple of minutes about what you've done and what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, thanks for introducing me. My name's Rick. I'm born and bred Mancunian for my sins, some might say, but I'm a proud, first and foremost, I'm a very proud dad to my son Liam. Yeah, raised and born in Manchester and still live there now. I, like many young men and young women, I just had a love for sport and I wanted to be a sports performer, an athlete, let's say. I actually, yes, I did, we'll maybe get on to combat sports and stuff and boxing in a little bit, but I did a bit of boxing, quite a lot of martial arts. That was something that more so as a young child when I started that, my parents sort of manoeuvred me towards that to keep me out of trouble. I was born and raised in Moss Side, quite a tough part of Manchester at that time. I then, played football and was I'd say a fairly good footballer. But like many, young men and women, it wasn't to be for me. But that ultimately led me into my career path. I love sports. I always have done. I lacked confidence in my own ability as a kid, I think. And at various times in life as well. And I think that those two things have moved me into the career path that I've got now. I studied sport and exercise science at the University of Salford. I worked as a personal trainer for a number of years in city centre Manchester. I was proudly probably one of the first self-employed personal trainers in Manchester at that time. And then, I got my lucky break in sport by working voluntary, by doing the nuts and bolts, the jobs that nobody else wanted to do as a young coach coming through. And I learned my trade as I went. I've worked with thousands of members of the public now over my career. I've gone well past that sort of 10,000 hour coaching mark. I'm probably closer to 20,000 now. And I was lucky enough to work as 4 years as the head of performance for Team Ricky Hatton. And I've since worked with 6 world champion boxers. You mentioned the tennis. I also worked with Red Bull for a few years with all their extreme sports athletes. So all those crazy guys and girls who do things really fast, jump off buildings, all that kind of stuff. And that's led to a ton of different diverse, all that work in sport has led to diverse work, seminars and coaching for the police force, for the military, lots of different universities, and probably I think what I'm probably most proud of, which is my charity work, which maybe we'll get to in a bit, and that's me. But what I would say, Craig, I'm a working class boy who's still learning and still trying to get better every day.
Incredible CV, but the way you kind of put it across, you can tell working class lad, no nonsense, and I think that's definitely something I like about it. So if I can just kind of run into a couple of things. Obviously, some of our boot campers and that are listening to this, they'll be going, well, this is all great, high level performance, professional athletes and all that. But that's not really me. But are there certain things that you see in these professional boxers and tennis players and all these even these Red Bull athletes, although they are a bit strange? Is there certain things that you kind of see in them that most people have, or the average person, has them characteristics?
Yeah, I mean, I followed a path that I think is fairly common to a lot of coaches. In that, as I started to progress up the ladder of performance, let's say, and getting working with elite sports people, elite athletes, my default crave was I need to learn more. I need more knowledge. So I started reinvesting my money, doing loads of courses, traveling all around Europe, learning off different people. I went back to university and did my master's degree in strength conditioning, all well and good. What was evidently clear to me is that I could have two athletes, okay, that were of similar height, similar weight, similar technical ability, similar talent. I would give them the same program because we were in the same sport, and I would get a completely different reaction and a completely different response. And it basically, the point I'm making is I've got all these qualifications, which is fine. You get a few letters after your names, good for your ego and all that kind of stuff. I had to learn more about people, and athletes are exactly, high performers, let's say, performers, because these characteristics are the same in military. They're the same, you obviously know this with your background. They're the same in the police force. They're the same with high performing corporate people. You name it. Is that we all, there is a perception that athletes are, they do, like you say, the crazy Red Bull guys and girls, they do amazing things, but they fundamentally are people just like you and I. They have hopes, they have dreams, they have fears, they have insecurities, just like you and I. And that is where we are, I've been down to boot camp, I've met a load of your guys. It was a great day down there. We are all the same. They have things that they love to do, just like they have things that they love to eat. Yeah. They have things that they absolutely hate doing and absolutely hate eating. And just like you and I, they'll gravitate to the things they love and resist like mad the things that they hate. They're no different to any one of us. We're all exactly the same.
That's often missed, isn't it? I mean, some of my sporting heroes of that, I look at them and think, well, they're just like supermen, superwomen, just incredible. You look at Jess Ennis and you sort of think, it's just ridiculous to think that she's a normal person, like walking a dog and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's good to get a bit of an insight there from you. So what?
I was just going to say, she's got the same, not just Ennis, let's say, but any athlete, they've got the same insecurities as every single one of us. Am I good enough? Am I fast enough? Am I getting better? Am I not getting better? Am I getting older? Am I too young? We're all fundamentally, of course, our own battles are individual, but what the point I think I'm making is there is a perception that these guys and girls are, hardwired robots, superhuman, and it's absolutely not the case.
Is it just a case that they've made different choices then and ended up in a different place? So it must be some genetics as well. Well, there's got to be some kind of genetic difference in there. But how do they get there then?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I mean, there is some. Of course, there is genetics, and that argument of talent. Are we born with it? Is it learned? That is a conversation that we could spend all day talking about and never get to the end of, and we'd all have maybe different opinions in that. I think within what I call a performance jigsaw, and of which is many pieces, a big piece of it is there's luck along the way. But of course, it is all about, yes, it's about choices. For many high level athletes, certainly in the sports I've been involved in, it's about escapism. So a lot of them have come from very working class backgrounds, and sport affords them a chance to be successful in something, to be good at something, and to gain rewards, not just for themselves, for here and now and later life, but also for their family as well. And I know that certainly, I have a belief that some sports, without naming any names, I think there's world champions in some sports in inner cities that will never be found.
Yeah, you're right. And that's probably goes back to your roots in Moss Side, you know what I mean? I mean, how many disadvantaged kids are out there that they're just never going to get that lucky break or whatever, and how much talent is just left on the streets. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, my family came over from Ireland in the 60s at the time as well. The Windrush generation was coming over into Manchester as well, and in particular, in areas like Moss Side, like you say, there wasn't a lot of money, but what there actually was people's willingness to work hard, and things such as boxing and combat sports. It kept a lot of young men. There was less advantage for there was less opportunity, for women back then for things like boxing, compared to what there is now. But it certainly gave us an opportunity to channel our focus towards the right means.
So moving on from that in a slightly different direction is like, so what, is there other things that these top level athletes have that really do set them apart?
I've seen amazingly talented athletes not be successful. And I've seen athletes with obviously talent, but with perhaps not as much talent, go on and win world titles. And I think if I'm looking for, characteristics, let's say, that I think are relatable to the boot camp members, I think one of the and you touched on it before, and it forms part of the coaching model that I use with all my clients. The one characteristic that really successful athletes have is the ability to make the right decision. And when I say the right decision, I don't mean anything astronomical. I basically think that, and I talk about this a lot with my guys, is that every single day we're faced numerous times in the day with a choice, okay, with a decision to make, with a choice. And that choice is when it's boiled down, is one of two things for us. It's either the choice of short-term pleasure or it's the choice of short-term pain. Now, if we repeat the choice that we make of short-term pleasure often enough, it will lead us to long-term pain. On the flip side of that, if we repeat the choice of short-term pain often enough, it will lead us to long-term pleasure. And a characteristic I've noticed a lot in the people I work with, the ones who do really, really well, I'm often asked, what's the training that they do? They must have these amazing training programs or amazing nutrition plans and all that kind of stuff. And I said, no, they do not. They do the basics well, and they do it well every day. And they make the choice of short-term pain. They understand, like I think all of us do, what's healthy to eat, what isn't healthy to eat. But when and they do get tempted, when the temptation is there, they are able to make that decision of short-term pain to eat that healthier food that perhaps doesn't quite taste as nice, to get outside in the rain. And this is Manchester, right? So it's raining all the time, So, they will go for a run. And yeah, they get that feeling of, I can't be arsed today. Oh, look at the weather. Oh, it's raining. I'm going to get wet. Oh, I'm not as fit as I want to be at the minute, so it's probably going to hurt. My times are probably not going to be that good. But they do it anyway. They're able to take the decision of short-term pain. And they know if they repeat that decision, I want to watch Netflix. And it applies to everything. It's 11, 10:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock. I want to watch Netflix. I want to watch the latest episode of Game of Thrones or whatever's on it right now. If I take the decision of short-term pleasure and watch Netflix, I'll probably stay up and watch the second one. And I'll wake up feeling tired in the morning. I might not go for my run. Short-term pleasure equals long-term pain. The best athletes get it. I want to watch Netflix, but I'm going to bed because I know that I need to recover. I need to rest. I need to get up early, do my run. I really don't want to go to bed early, but they do it anyway. And I think that is the characteristic I've seen more than ever Scott Quigg, former world champion. I'm certainly not suggesting that we should all do this, but we've done training camps and we've trained on Christmas Day because in his mind, he's like, I'm training, I want to win. It's a short-term pain thing. I'll just swerve it because it's Christmas Day. No, it's just a day. Go and get your training done.
Mm. Rick, can I just add, obviously, you've worked with some incredible people, but the one that sticks out in my mind is Tony Bellew, because he had a bit of a go, on the SAS Dares wins, he had a bit of a go at the instructors and that. And I thought, freaking instructors want to be careful, if he lets rip with a few punches, they're done for. Have you ever sort of locked arms with these people and you know what I mean? How do you kind of bring them back online if they don't quite agree or whatever?
Yeah, it's the skill. It's the skill of coaching, isn't it? And again, this is the same for members of camp, for our clients, for any one of us. We all, depending on our mood, depending on our emotions, depending on if we've slept well, depending on if we've ate well, we're all emotional human beings, and some days we feel great, other days we don't. Again, athletes are no different. Just like I'm sure maybe one or two members of camp, they can be stubborn sometimes. That said, we're not right all the time either. So for me, with the athletes, it's about working with them. I think a dictatorship doesn't work. That said, sometimes we've got to give them a bit of a kick up the backside. Sometimes we've got to have an honest conversation, what I call a courageous conversation. We've got to tell them the truth. We've got to make them clear on, not only the rewards they'll get if they do something, but the consequences if they don't. Athletes, again, like any one of us, we're all got our opinions. That there is knowledge. We are absolutely swamped now, aren't we? With knowledge, with opinion, with different views on anything and everything. They know the same. They're exactly the same. Excuse me. When I'm working with them, if I want them to do something, ultimately my job as a coach is to educate them on the benefits of why I'm asking them to do this. My job then, if they're resisting, is to make them understand and accept why they're resisting, and then ultimately get them to make the right choice. Sometimes, coaching is about communication. It's about being open-minded, and it's also about a little bit of instinct as well. As we get to know our clients, we know if they come to us and they are genuinely exhausted, that it may be less beneficial to continuously push them through the wall that day. That said, we also know when sometimes on the reverse of that, it's no, we're going to do this. Conflict happens. As I say, it's a courageous conversation, but it's based on a foundation of knowledge and understanding. And it's the exact same. I've always liked my clients, if we're out doing a weight training program or an S&C program, or there will always be a time where they say, I don't like this exercise. And I'll work with them then to say, okay, well, let's remove that emotion. We don't have to like it, but here's the benefits of it. Here's why I'm asking you to do it. Here's why it's good for you. Here's what you're going to get from it, internally and externally. And then hopefully we can move forward from there.
I love that, the courageous conversation. That's immense. I like the idea behind that. But what also struck out was removing the emotion from some of the things. I get people at camp all the time. I hate kettlebell swings or whatever, and just that thought. Well, you don't need to like them. Can you tell me a little bit more on that, or just where you develop that technique? Or
I think there's sometimes an assumption, Craig, that athletes like training, and they don't. Right. Most of them really, really don't. But it's a process that they accept that will lead them. We're motivated towards something or away from something. You know that as well as I do, if not more. When somebody tells me that they hate something, I will calmly ask them what part they hate about it, because it's a kettlebell, and it's simply a movement. And if we take the emotion away from it, it's a process. It's a process that we don't have to like. But I think if we can remind ourselves that we're working away from something, or remind ourselves that we're moving towards something, we can embrace the process and just get it done and move forward. There's elements of training I love. There's elements of training such as flexibility, stretching, I absolutely hate, and I hate them because they hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
and we on that.
It's an irony that that often the things that are good for us we tend to not really like. I'll try and reframe it with people. I'll try and reframe it mentally in their head. You know, I actually don't like being on a physio table. You know, as I get a little bit older each year, as we all do, I don't like being on a physio table. I more so don't like having to pay to be on a physio table. I don't like stretching, but I understand and I accept the two key elements of change, understand it and accept it. I understand and accept that if I stretch more, it will reduce the time and money I spend at the physio. So I do it.
Can I jump into some questions now from our campers, which are completely, you know, I've not pre-shown you these, so we'll do it kind of off the cuff and see how we get on.
Yeah.
You all right with that? Use some of your knowledge, right? I've got one from Alice, and she basically said, "Can you build muscle and lose fat in a calorie deficit (brackets with good protein intake?" So I know that, I mean, there's probably so many intricacies of that, but you know, how do you go about answering that?
Okay, I'm going to break that question in half.
Yeah.
So can you build muscle? I'll move to the left. Can you lose fat? I'll move to the right. In order to lose fat, you have to be in a calorie deficit. I think there's a ton of different ways of trains of thought, schools of thought around balancing hormones, around health, and I agree with every single one of them. But also when it comes down to it, on the theory and the law of thermogenics, you've got to be in a calorie deficit. You achieve that by knowing and understanding your basal metabolic rate, so basically how much fuel you need in a day, and then understanding that you have to move more as well, and we have to move with good quality. And did you say with something about protein as well there, Craig?
Yeah, with good protein intake, whatever that would be.
And in order to lose fat, and what will help with achieving calorie deficit is that protein intake is the foundation of a balanced nutrition plan. So there has to be good pro. You know, I think what the person there is getting at is with a high amount of protein in the diet. For me, we have to understand that nutrition should be balanced. That, you know, but the key is for me. So what I mean is by, yes, good protein, but also good quality fats and some carbohydrate in there as well, some slow releasing carbohydrate, low starch carbohydrate. But yeah, ultimately, when you boil it down, we have to be in a calorie deficit to burn fat. That has to happen. I think answering that half of that question, can you build muscle in a calorie deficit? I've worked with thousands of different people, and it's been it's a lottery with this one, really. So what I mean by that is I've worked with some clients who have been able to get lean and I think, again, build muscle. I think what that means is actually make muscles grow, make them get bigger. I've had some clients that, yes, have been able to do that in a calorie deficit, and then other clients who haven't, and there's been no real law to that. So I would say base it on facts. So if you're training well, if you're able to perform well in your training in a calorie deficit, your body fat is reducing and you are getting stronger and more powerful, then I would say carry on. If you are in a calorie deficit, you are losing body fat, but you are weak, you are unable to lift, you're unable to do press-ups and squats and pull-ups and all that kind of stuff, I would try something different. And I would understand that maybe you need to increase your fuel in order to perform. It's a really open question, that one. I'm not sure I've answered it.
No, you're right. I think, well, you've definitely got some great points across. And I think for me, it's like, you know, whenever someone talks to me about this kind of thing, I'm kind of like, look, just split them in two. Let's have two different periods where, you know, you have a fat loss bloody period, and then a muscle building period, or vice versa, or whatever. You know, it's. I think it is a tough one, but I think you answered it really, really well.
I think splitting them in two is important. Fat loss is fat loss, and muscle building is muscle building. So I think fat loss in a calorie deficit, yes. Building muscle in a calorie deficit, It can be done, but not by everybody. I think understanding that we're all unique. So just because the person next to you is able to do it doesn't mean you are. And there is no saying, if you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. So if it's not working, you got to try something new.
Yeah. The next question from Claire is, what should diabetics do differently or additionally in strength training, considering they can have less power to muscle ratio pound for pound than non-diabetics? Now, I know you're not a medical doctor, but just, your take on that.
That's a great question. There was a boxer, actually, I forget his name now, but he was the first professional boxer recently to be granted a professional boxing license as a type 2 diabetic. It was banned in boxing for a while. I have to get this chap's name now, but he was able to prove that, it was... Is it?
I've just done a little bit of Google search there. It's come up as Muhammad Ali. Is that right?
That's him. That's him. Yeah, that's him. He's based in I think in sort of Bolton, up in the northwest of England somewhere.
Got some big boots to fill there, aren't you, with that name?
Yeah, with that name. Yeah, definitely. But he was able to prove that he was obviously fit, healthy, and it was discriminatory. And why could he not compete? And yeah, he's been granted a license. What should diabetics do differently? I think to first and foremost, the biggest thing, if it's particularly type 2 diabetes, the first thing that they should do is strength train. That is the first thing that they should do. I think the science shows that strength training helps regulate insulin and blood sugar, that hormonally it helps with hormonal balance. So I think if you're not doing strength training, that would be my first point of call. Start doing it. The big one for me would be to monitor recovery rate. Now, one thing that we do use is carbs often after strength training. If you're type 2 diabetic, that may not be the case for you. Carbohydrate helps with protein synthesis. It helps the ingestion of protein into the muscle. It helps with recovery, basically. So to answer that question, they may, I'm not saying this is fact, but they may need slightly longer recovery. They may need slightly longer recovery between each set. I don't know that for a fact. I would sort of thinking logically there, consider that they should need to work as hard as they can to get as strong as possible. Well, that's a tough question. What I would say there, and I'm going to go and look that up actually afterwards, because I'd like to know the answer deeper, to that myself. And what I would say I think the lady's name was Claire.
Yeah.
Remember that the internet is full of opinion. So I would, if she wanted to research that herself further as well, to look at what's proven by science. So rather than just Googling, I'm not suggesting she does, but if she wanted to know more, and I will certainly go and look up afterwards. I'll go and look at PubMed, which is one of the big scientific journals for strength training and for sports science, or I'll go and Google Scholar as well. So that'd be where I'd advise her to look. To round that answer off, as I've said, first and foremost, diabetics, particularly type 2, should do strength training. They absolutely should do strength training.
As a priority?
As a priority, yeah. It absolutely is proven to help regulate insulin. So, and sort of increase the sensitivity, and therefore it directly supports your body's fight with type 2 diabetes. That's scientifically proven. Then to answer the second part of the question, and this is just me thinking logically, I would, in terms of what should you do additionally, differently, perhaps look at your recovery times, take more recovery if you need to, but focus, as is always with strength training, on trying to get as strong as you can do in a safe manner.
Yeah, another great answer. This next one, the best way to build strength and stamina without injury if you're aged over 40 or 50. Again, I know these are pretty... you could probably take 3 or 4 days to answer some of these, but...
Not wrong with being aged 40 or 50 as well, might I add, as a man in that bracket myself. So there we go. So again, strength and stamina, 2 separate things. Let's completely split them in half. The best way to build strength without injury: focus on technique, safety first. Never sacrifice technique in order to get stronger. It's it's a complete nonsense, because eventually, if technique goes out the window, you'll get injured. You will get injured. And the minute you get injured and stop strength training, based on the theory of sarcopenia, as it's called, you won't be very strong for very long when you're injured. So it's a real nonsense. First and foremost, safe technique when you're trying to get strong is absolutely crucial. And I would also additionally advise that if you are going on a block of strength training, to really focus on mobility training, really focus on making sure that your muscles are loose, those calves are being mobilized, the hamstrings, that you're activating the glutes, and that you've got, we call it in sport an IP program. So whenever we're working a program of strength, we have an IP program, which is injury prevention, to go alongside it. As you get stronger, you must have something in place for your body to be safeguarded as well, by flexibility, muscle activation, mobility and movement. I would, again, 40 to 50, at any age, I'd advise you to get stronger, but I would certainly advise you to get stronger in those age brackets of 40 and 50 and above. More and more physiotherapy now, whenever you go to forward-thinking physios, yes, they will have you on the table and on the bed, but more and more of them are getting their clients into the gym and showing them how to get stronger. So age 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, get doing the strength training, no doubt about it. The stamina, what I would say there, and there's an irony here, obviously based on what you've done in the last couple of days where you're running, is what I would do is I would focus on, or I would be aware of the byproduct of stamina-based training. So if you're running and you've got, weak ankles or hips, or your knees are aching and so forth like that, there is absolutely no reason why you should solely just run. You are more than okay to, and I like running, by the way, Craig. I certainly can't run like you can, but there is no reason why you can't swap that over for something that's linear play, no impact. So exercise, biking, rowing machine. If you've got a history of back problems, maybe the rowing machine's not for you. The point I'm making is, it's that ultimately, there's an old saying, the methods are many, the principles are few. And there's a load of different ways to improve your stamina, but you will get red flags. And if you're constantly running, pounding the roads, and knees are starting to hurt, shins, ankles, at some point injury will occur. So maybe just change it up, maybe just mix it up. There's nothing wrong with getting on a cross trainer. Some of them, of course, may burn more calories than others, or are perhaps more optimum than others, but as I say, the methods are many, the principles are few. One key principle is that strength and stamina will never be at its best if you're injured and on an injury table, on a physio table. Yeah,
I mean, I've spent probably the largest part of my adult life always carrying an injury of some kind, and only recently I got a running coach, and it's completely transformed the way that I run now. I started my run, whenever it was, 2 days ago, I think it was. Lots gone on since then. For the first time, I was on the start line. I was like, wow, I feel prepared and I'm injury free. And I don't remember another race when I've been like that. So that tip of sort of focusing on technique really is an essential one, I think. Right, a couple more questions, and then I just want to jump onto the old charity boxing nights if we can, if you've got time. Really quick ones. 3 books that you would recommend for anyone sort of looking to lose weight or get fit, a beginner really.
Oh gosh, How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy by Paul Chek.
Yeah,
I'd say that's a staple read for everyone. It's a great book. It's really, really informative. It's really, really simple, but very informative as well. And then I'm going to broaden my answers here. Rather than give you a specific book, I would say a good book about cooking. It gives you simple recipes, that are very, very sort of healthy but clean. So understanding how to cook and understanding the process there. And then a good book about your mind and understanding the emotion behind food.
Yeah, amazing.
But How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy is definite. A good book about food. and a good book about the emotion and mindset of food.
Amazing. Last one of these questions then. What are your 3 go-to exercises in the gym? So whether either for yourself or for your clients?
So go-to exercises for me, squats. I love squats. They're a big one for me. Boxing training is a big one for me. And then always some stretching, because I'm not very good at it and I need to do loads of it.
Amazing. Right, let's jump over to the charity boxing nights. So, I've been to a couple of times. Incredible event to experience. If we can just talk a little bit about it. It's quite good timing for us because we're about to launch fight camps in the new year. So it's boxing and Muay Thai themed boot camps, really. So there's a lot of people really, really keen on that. And it kind of ties in nicely to your charity boxing night. So if you can just tell us about it, like what your aim of the night is, what it consists of, and then I've got a couple of questions about it.
Yeah, I mean, so charity boxing nights, I created it. Sadly, my niece was born in 2014. There was sadly some complications, and unfortunately she passed away, after 12 days. She was transferred to the specialist newborn intensive care unit at Manchester Hospital, Royal Manchester Children's Hospital. My sister was very, very poorly as well. Thankfully, my sister pulled through, but sadly, Sophia didn't make it. And it was at that time I just made the decision, after wandering through the hospital and having a moment, let's say, on the ward. I made the decision that I wanted to fundraise and be a fundraiser. I'd had a little attempt at doing a charity night a few years earlier, a boxing-based charity night, and I swore, I was like, I am never doing that again. Never, ever doing that again. But I don't know. There was just sort of something in me that, you talk about motivations and things to drive you on, and obviously that was probably as big a motivator for me as I've ever had in my life. And I just decided I was going to do a charity boxing night, and I was going for it, and I was going to go for it in a big way. I come from a pro boxing, world, let's say, but I wanted to take normal people who had never fought before, and I wanted to take them on a journey through the fight camp, through a training process, and get them into the ring for their one night as a boxer. So I wanted to keep it as safe as possible, hence stringent checks, making sure that it's people who've never fought before. There's tons of research behind punch power and so forth like that, and ability to deliver a punch comparable for a boxer to a non-boxer. So yeah, that's what we did. We did our first event in 2015. It's an annual event. Obviously, sadly, due to COVID-19, this is the first year we've been unable to do it. But we've done 5 years now, and we've raised £250,000 so far, and we're pushing forwards.
Incredible amount of money. So the fighters, just everyday people, just off the street. Then, I mean, what kind of change do you see them undergo through the training? So they train for 6 weeks, is that right?
Yeah, we're a bit longer. I think normally ends up being about 7.5 weeks. Obviously, the normal people, like you said, Craig. They're working factories, teachers, office workers, day jobs, shift workers, you name it. So, there's always the odd training session that's missed, but we're very disciplined on the fact that they've got to attend, they've got to commit. And I mean, we've had all kinds of results in terms of people. A lot of them have carried on. First and foremost, what I would say is a lot of them have carried on boxing training afterwards. At local boxing clubs, and some of them have gone on to have more than one fight since then. But we've seen people massively improve their mental health, massively improve their confidence, their resilience, their self-efficacy, and to losing a ton of weight, and improving every facet of their life. Just going very slightly sideways. I hugely believe in combat training for every single one of us. I've never ever trained somebody who hits pads, and you don't have to fight or get punched in the face or anything like that. I've never ever done pads with anybody who hasn't enjoyed it. Every single person who I've done pad work with, for stress relief, imagining ex-partners' faces on pads, you name it, they love pad work. And it is great fun. It's great stress relief. So we've had, because not everybody makes the fight night. Some people, decide that actually I just wanted to do the training and that's fine. But we've had, well over 100 people go through our training process now over the 5 years, well over, probably close to 150. And for every one of them, it's been a positive thing. And in some cases, it's been life-changing. The ones who do fight, we're very clear that they've already won the fight by getting there on the night. And when the curtains open and you've been to the night, on all the lights we make a big spectacle of it. We encourage them to embrace every second of it and be extremely proud of themselves, because they're doing it for themselves, of course, something they'll look back on for life and maybe, a bucket list kind of thing. But also there is a huge cause and the money we've raised has gone towards ventilators, it's gone towards key equipment that ultimately has saved critically ill babies' lives.
Have you got to be sort of Manchester based to take part? Have you? I'm just thinking that, we've got thousands of boot campers there, all like hitting the pads and think, how am I going to challenge myself next?
We've had people from outside of Manchester and the Northwest. We've had, one guy last year was from Blackpool and he was driving over 3 times a week. What we do say is you do not have to be Manchester based to apply. If you're really keen on it, we'd link you up and help you link up with a local boxing club. There would be key sessions that you would have to attend, and even one of them is making sure that you equally match to an opponent, because safety is everything for us. Height and weight have got to be similar and so forth like that. But maybe I'm giving you a little exclusive here now, mate, but we are looking, and again, pre-COVID, our plans were to take charity boxing nights on the road, let's say, and then be in other cities as well. Yeah, that is very much our plan. As we might have to perhaps wait a little bit longer now due to COVID, but that remains our plan to maybe look at one in the north, one in the south, and one in the middle of the country as well. And I'm probably not going to say any more than that. Yeah, for now.
Yeah, I understand.
What I would say is, please look at my website, ricmoylan.co.uk. There's no K in Rick. It's RICMOYLAN. There's the charity page on there, and have a watch of the videos that are on there. I think it's a pretty good event, and we're grateful for our support. And if you do want to apply, please get in touch.
Yeah, I think
we consider all applications.
What I'll say as well is, it's easy to sort of try and compare to apples and think, white collar boxing, I've done that, I've seen that. This is not white collar, but this is as close as you're going to get to being a professional boxer on the night. And then the other side of it is come along and supporting. Get yourself a ticket and come and experience what is a phenomenal night. Me and Paula have been a couple of times and absolutely love it. So
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. We do our best, and I'm not going to embarrass you too much, but you and Team Bootcamp have massively supported us in many ways. So yeah, the only rule that we have, the only rule is that you cannot have fought before. If you fought before, you're ineligible even to fight on our event. The only exception we'll give to that is if you have fought with us as a beginner and lost, we will give you one more attempt. Most people do,
Yeah.
Actually, I'm lying. Some people, quite a few have had a second attempt. But yeah, that is our golden rule. You cannot have fought before. But obviously, like you say, we sell over 600 tickets. We're now more than ever, particularly with what's gone on this year, we're going to look at. We stream the fights anyway, but we're now going to look at streaming the fights as a real fundraising act now as well, and we're grateful for any support always.
Amazing. Rick, I'm just going to start bringing this to a bit of a close now. It's been great chatting to you, and some absolute pearls of knowledge there. I'd be quite keen in the future, if you're up for it, put you on the spot, on the podcast, to get you and our good friend Quirk in as a bit of a double act, a little bit of a conversation there about stuff. Anything that you go on, mate?
Well, I was going to say I'd be well up for that. We obviously asked that still as well.
Anything you want to pass on before I sort of close things down?
What I would say, sorry, just...
I think we lost him there. Never mind. I'll get him back for another episode in the future. But I'm sure you've enjoyed that and learnt lots. So until the next podcast, take care.